Oh, we're flying all over.
We are indeed. It's Wednesday, it's 3 o'clock. Welcome to Together Unlocked, brought to you by Together 2012 and a rather anarchic live streaming system with a bit of a mind of its own. We kind of decided last year that the internet appears to run on magic anyway. So apologies for the gremlins. I'm Jew Gosling, also known as Jew90. I'm artistic director of Together 2012, who are bringing you this stream today. With me, as always, is Julie Newman, our chair and an artist, and of course, international activist in her own right. I'm going to come back to us with some audio description and tell you a bit more about what we're going to do today. But first, over to the West Midlands, to the other end of our long virtual wheeled sofa for some introductions and audio description from the guys.
Well, good afternoon. Welcome to the West Midlands. On a bit of a murky day today, I have to say. It's beautiful yesterday. So here we are, in Sutton Coldfield, in our lovely studio, which is looking a bit darker today for some reason. Maybe it's just the lack of light outside. So I'm Robin Surgener. I am business director at Together 2012. And what do I look like today? I am still sporting my silvery white um,
Hair.
styled hair. Uh, I've got blue eyes behind no rim black armed glasses. I have shaved, you can tell, because it always makes me look like someone's punched me in the face. Yeah, benefits. Um, and I am wearing a dark blue polo shirt, which on the right breast says Swim England, and on the left breast says my name and skills coach for the county of Warwickshire. And it's a logo um, of a bear because the county logo for Warwickshire is a bear.
Oh, I never knew that. And I'm going to resist the temptation to ask why until later.
Thank you. I've no idea.
Hi, I'm Josh Surgeon. I'm also one of the Together Unlocked hosts, and I'm a PhD student. I have very long blonde hair at this point. That's kind of brushed out of the way rather than styled, I think. And I'm also wearing a kind of dark grey, kind of very oversized sweatshirt. It's a little bit like wearing a blanket. It's nice and warm to match the really miserable weather outside.
Yeah, it's pretty miserable here in London too. Well, I've got a self styled corona crop now hidden probably for the rest of the year, if not forever, under various hats. Today, I'm wearing the same hat I was wearing on Monday, which we couldn't think of a name for. It is indeed a trilby. So I have a grey trilby over my hennaed corona crop. I've got green eyes behind black plastic glasses. I've got light olive skin, black wrist braces, silver coloured jewellery, and a long sleeved dark green t shirt with sort of white and black stripes around the wrist and neckline. Behind me, you can see just a tantalising glimpse of our lovely Together 2012 graffiti banner. That's covered with images of all the art forms we cover in the course of a year, from poetry and spoken word to visual arts, craft, live music, photography, filmmaking, carnival art, street art, and more. So, also sitting just under the banner is our teddy bear waiting to compete in the Clockwork Paralympics, which are coming up after 3:30. But first, Julie, who are you? What do you look like?
I'm Julie. I'm the chair of Together. Excuse me. I also have long hair, unstyled, just out of the way as much as possible. It's gold and silver. I wear dark rimmed glasses. I have on each wrist little pewtery type bracelets or torques. One is a Celtic cross, the other has got twin wolf heads on it, which I quite like. I've got a grey t-shirt on and a blue zip-up hoodie, a sort of powder blue zip-up hoodie.
Thank you, Julie. So, coming up today, it's Wednesday, so we will start as always with poems from the Pop Up Poetry Club and a report from Julie. We're going to be looking at a short film from Disability Arts Online and telling you more about how you can find out lots more about disabled led arts up and down the UK by logging onto their website every week. Josh will have his usual sports and gaming reports, and we have our weekly virtual nature watch where today we are going to go and see some lambs in Norfolk, which I have to say I am rather excited about. So, Julie, the Pop Up Poetry Club, it's actually, I should just introduce it because I can tell you're still about to cough. We run a clubs program on weekday mornings for any disabled person who can get to us. That used to mean travelling to East London. It currently means being able to have access to a telephone or the internet. So, our club runs on Tuesday mornings from 11 to 12 and Friday mornings from 11 to 12, and that's a Zoom club. We also have photography and filmmaking on the second Monday, so coming up next week, and dance on screen on the fourth Monday. But on a Wednesday, we move over to the telephone to a telephone based pop up poetry club. We phone you and we pay all the costs. So, how did it go this morning, Julie?
Oh, excellent. It was busy. There was a lot going on. Some people joined us and read poems that they'd found. Other people joined us and wrote poems as well as reading poems that they'd found. And it was nice to catch up with some old friends who hadn't been around for a while. So, yeah, it was really great. The topic this morning was shoes.
Yes, I mean, I think that's one of the issues, isn't it? That we're still finding that almost a year on, people are still getting organised. And I think everybody's been really disrupted. I mean, of course, including you. You haven't seen your own flat for nearly a year. So we've started singing the sort of Sound of Music, The Hills Are Alive, as we sort of potted over here with Julie's dog and two cats and bags containing every camera but very few clothes. And of course, our club's program leader has been looking after her mum, hasn't seen her home for nearly a year, and I could go on. So, yes, I think people tend to forget that for a lot of us, life has really never settled down once since last March. But as we say, stay home, stay creative is a great recipe for staying well. So, would you like to start with your own poem, Julie?
Okay, I got somebody else's in front of it, so bear with. Bear with. Okay. Excuse me. It's this is I have to say I rambled slightly, so it's a bit long. Shoes. My shoes last longer now, sitting under the bed with only dust for company. Blue suede shoes triumphantly bought in the sale, but unused for long months, give rise to doubt about the wisdom of their purchase. That well worn pair waiting to retire are patiently sitting, side by side with summer shoes, carefully kept safe, ready for the long hot days that push the memory of frost and rain far back into the dusty attic of memory. The dreams remain of open fields, mud dried into ruts pushed up by tufts of long grass, paths created by years of small creatures finding their way to where they need to be, to eat, to sleep, to safety. They have no need for shoes. Their paws and little hooves keep them moving, treading the paths well known for generations, instinctively keeping safe, ready for flight, the route home to shelter. I travelled that way once. My boots sturdy, well soled, and fitting snugly, not too tight, but supportive of vulnerable arches and ankles held secure. They served me well as I rode my wonderful chariot off road. The little dog and I would ride for miles, our attention held by the sounds of the forest and heath. What bird is that? What lies beyond the clump of trees? Is the pond dry? And what is hiding in the bracken? Deep, dark, dankly smelling. And then pausing, I would step down, barely moving, quiet, causing no stick to crack, no sound to show our intrusions into that other world, my camera ready to capture the smallest scene, the leaf, the insect, the bird. I loved those boots, kept them clean and polished, tucked safely on the rack, not for every day, but ready for the great adventures, ready for those special times when they would march along with the million women, pushing back the boundaries, striking out for freedom, no longer the vote, but the freedom to move, to explore the wilderness or sit by the sea, the beach stretching out so far, waiting for the footprints to form. No gulls shout loudly as they swoop, nor buzzards' plaintive calls echo through the woods that in my imagination paints on bedroom walls. The smell of forest, strong only in the realms of memories long past. Instead, I patiently wait, longing for a pair of Dorothy's ruby red slippers that I can steal from the witch and put on my feet. Becoming that symbol of liberation, I can click my heels and return to Kansas.
Wow, you
Yeah.
wrote all that in half an hour.
Yeah, I was just waiting for Robin to say that because we say that every time, don't we? We just don't know how you do it. And of course, that absolutely, I can really see where that's coming from. And I think many other people will, because there's just so many of us. And I think people forget there's the official shielding group who were told to shield. But of course, there's so many other people whose lives have been like that for donkey's years anyway, or who've just been as careful as they possibly can. I mean, I know there's a huge, for all of the figures in Newham, which have been appalling, most people have been shut down kind of tight as can be for a very long time. So one of those, of course, is Crystal Peasy. So this is Crystal's poem on shoes. I have many shoes. Some of them are summer shoes, but also many winter ones. All of my shoes are beautiful, very expensive, and very stylish. I have mostly designer shoes. My shoes are also very glittery. Some have diamonds on them, silver diamonds and bright colours, silver white, black, purple, white, red, and pink. That's lovely, Crystal. Crystal's a woman like myself. I consider it to be extremely expensive if I've bought it at the market. And I know that Crystal's an amazing shopper. I really miss Crystal's shoes. And this one is from Dawn Barber and it's called The Shoe. Imagining all the shoes I have got to catch a pair to put on my feet. I catch a pair, jump up. They are glitter ones. They have a nice heel, but not too big, just right for me. Wham! I look at them, that are size 4. I try them on. They look just right. I walk up and down in them on the path. They make me taller and strong. Other shoes are flying around me. Hang on, I cannot buy you all at once. They settle on the path and I choose the ones I want. Isn't this great? All the shoes, I have a different pair for each day. Some are lower than others, some are higher. They're beautiful. Hip, hip, hooray as I walk down the street with my shoes on my feet. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Dawn. I know you don't even have a mobile phone, so you won't be watching this, but it's so great to well, just to have that contact, I think, for all of us. You know, Dawn was one of our very first volunteers back in 2012 and is also a very talented visual artist. Josh, I believe you have Glory Sengo's poem.
I do, and this is called Black Shoes. When I wore my black shoes, I was about to go to the wedding. I went to see my friend Juliet, who just got married. Also, we had a wedding cake and we had chips with chicken. We went to dance and we went back home again for some more food to eat when it was time to go home.
There's a whole story there. I love that. I think it's the chicken, but also once you get home, you have something else to eat.
Made me hungry.
Yeah.
Yes, I must admit, I had a sort of touch of that. So, Julie, you have one from Taylor Henville. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about it in advance?
Yes, this is referring to a film which is one of Taylor's favourite films. And she said as soon as she saw the topic, shoes for this week, she immediately thought of the film. So it's called The Red Shoes, which is the name of the film.
And it's a film with Moira Shearer, isn't it? I'm trying to remember. It's a very old film. Is it post-war or I think it must be post-war simply because it was coloured, but not very long post-war, I don't think.
It's a book, though, isn't it? It's from a children's book, so I remember reading it to Emily.
I honestly don't know. I
Yes,
imagine if you say so. Yes, absolutely.
No, it is. It is.
Yeah, I don't know which came first, but so because the film is quite adult, shall we say? Anyway, let's hear Taylor's poem.
Okay, it's The Red Shoes by Taylor Henville. Take off the red shoes, take off the red shoes, she whispered as she closed her eyes. Vicky Page would not take to the stage tonight, nor any other night. Vicky loved to dance, and she knew the shoes did too. She tied the ruby ribbons around her ankles, ignoring their snake-like grip. She needed to see what they could do on stage. She did pirouettes and arabesques. But when the show was over, the red shoes would not rest, and so they kept on dancing and pushed Vicky to the edge. Now, on opening night, the red shoes are alone in the spotlight, waiting for someone else to slip into the blood-stained shoes and dance into the night.
So it's very dark, isn't it? And I love the way that Taylor's been able to use spoken word to sort of extend it. So you've got the snake-like grip. This is Pies and Malloch. And all these poems are so different. So Pies and Malloch on shoes. Amazing how our body is protected. We feel safe and excited with the style, colours, and pattern. The make, usage are all modern. We smile and walk proudly, skip and tiptoe, showing off happily. Caps and scarves protects our head, in the sun or in bed. But shoes is one of the body protectors. We feel safe and complete with glamour. Right at the bottom, touching the floor, the grass, concrete, mud outdoors. I love my shoes, old and new. Brightly coloured, comfortably branded and patched in gold. I look elegant and bold. And anyone who knows Pies and Malloch certainly is a bold woman. So, last but by no means least, I believe Robin has a poem for us. And every week we do encourage you to join in from home. What's next week's theme, Julie?
The park.
The park.
Or parks.
That will be another one which we're all dreaming about and seeing if we can remember. So first, though, over to Robin for shoes.
Okay, and yeah, this is yet another take on the title. So this is simply called Shoes. Shoes, 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 espadrilles and boots. A myriad of styles in which to dress your foot. Imagine the panic if they could tell stories, exposing your lies and telling your truths. An adornment for every occasion, a medal to wear with pride, a shield to protect, a cover to hide the secrets you keep hidden behind, toe caps of steel or vulcanized rubber from cut down cows or reconstituted blubber, from fold and bound leaves with pieces of twine to crocs without teeth and mules without eyes. Furthest from your heart, yet closest to your soul, a design for every occasion. How will you know if your choice of footwear is correct on the day or whether you care what other people say? Do your shoes follow rules or defy conventions? Are you constantly searching for cultural reinventions? Will you wear wellies to parties and docks to the beach or play sport in high heels and slippers to teach? Whatever your choice, to rebel or conform, you will be judged by the cover of the footwear worn. So I say go naked, at least in terms of your feet. Let your toes do the talking, let your soul stay discreet.
That's so funny. I really enjoyed that. All of our poems and everything else we discuss or show today will be on our highlights and links page. What we do at the end of a show is we'll download the recording, we edit it to just check the sound and take out the transitions as much as possible for anybody who might have seizures. We correct the captions and we pop it all back up online on our website by about 7 o'clock in the evening. The highlights and links page, which will have the text of all the poems and the videos we show and links to anything we discuss, is usually up by 5 o'clock. And you can find that by going to our website, www.together2012.org.uk. Go to the Together Unlocked TV page to be able to view all of the programs. And then on the pull down linked menu, you can go to highlights and links. There's also a further pull down menu which has got the highlights and links from all of the previous months. So there's lots more poems there too. We'd love to hear your poems, whether they're on next week's theme of the park or anything really. We'd also love to have your videos of you performing your poems, and of course we'd like to see your artwork. Tell us about your projects. We're always pleased to have guests come on live. How long did it take you to write that, Robin?
So probably between 20 minutes and half an hour. I did it over breakfast rather than in the allotted half-hour slot. But yeah, I mean, I suppose because I knew what the subject matter was, I'd got things going on in the background before I wrote it. So, and I'm thinking about it being about lots of different types of shoes and rules.
I just think it's quite funny that, having done some teaching recently over Zoom, I have worn slippers to teach, actually.
Yes, sometimes I sit on a Zoom or indeed this stream and just feel that even though I would usually be wearing kind of, sheepskin boots, and particularly over the winter, because you know what it's like as a wheelchair user, your feet get cold, they never warm up. All of our setups here, you can't see your feet, and yet I still on occasion go, oh, I must go and put some shoes on because I've got to have a matching pair for this outfit. I mean, as I mentioned on Monday, I did Glasgow Film Festival yesterday. And I thought, oh, make sure I dress properly for the film festival. And then thought, well, what boots am I going to wear? And I had to say, what you actually need to do is keep your feet warm because nobody's going to see them. But somehow you don't feel quite dressed. Did you have those ideas for your shoes poem going on in your head for several days, or did it all just come
No.
out at once?
It all just sort of flowed this morning. I started thinking about it over breakfast, thinking, oh my God, I don't know what to write. And then there was a sort of flow of consciousness, and it just, because I wasn't trying to rhyme anything, it just sort of came out. But with you, with the shoes, every day I'm working for Together, I put shoes on, and it makes no difference whatsoever because nobody sees them.
I think there's a certain kind of psychological element to it. You feel more prepared or kind of more professional if you've got shoes on. And they always say, even for like job interviews and things over Zoom, it's like, still, even if they're going to see your top bit, dress the bottom half because it helps you get into that mindset of whatever it is you're doing. But I'm too lazy and I just wear totes, but it's just me.
Well, of course, David Morris, or the late David Morris, who was very much the inspiration behind Together 2012, used to wear what he described as radical socks. And I think he only got away with it because he was disabled. He could claim, I think, justifiably that perhaps his feet were too uncomfortable to wear shoes, but it didn't alter the fact that, as the Mayor of London's disability advisor, he also wore, with his radical socks, lots and lots of bracelets and a whole heap of different things, where so many disabled people in particular would have been going for the pinstripe suit that everybody else did. So David's idea of shoes was actually, yes, different pair of socks every day.
They were lovely as well. They were so interesting.
But I'm interested in your writing techniques because I think I'm the same. I could never just go and write something down straight away. But there's always a period. But quite often for me, that time period is days or even weeks. It can be, certainly when I've worked with the Poetry Club. Things start kind of ticking over and then you write them down. But I'm interested in what you're saying about not making sure it rhymes. And that's the next thing I tend to do with writing is, if the rhyme's there, great. but I can always come back and, if necessary, use a thesaurus and find a word that means the same that rhymes. At some point, I count the beats, which is very much about sort of saying, I know they're going to form a sort of mathematical pattern, and therefore if one line suddenly has a different number of beats to the rest, I probably need to go and change the words and add a syllable or remove a syllable, which again can come back to the thesaurus. But the first time when I'm writing it out, I don't think about any of those things, but I have to have time for it to really sort of form in my mind.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm probably, I guess, as a songwriter, more than a poet. I mean, if there is a distinction at all, but I do tend to write um in 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 a flow. Generally, I'll write with the flow that will have whatever that beat is. There are, it's not about counting syllables and stuff. I'm looking at the words that I just read you, and there are lines that you think, well, how on earth did that fit in there? From cut down cows or reconstituted blubber. It's like, or cultural reinventions. How on earth do you think you're going to get that into a bit of poetry? But it's, for me, I guess it's just what I've kind of, that idea of flow. Doesn't have to rhyme between lines. Sometimes it'll be the first and the last line that rhymes, but my listening sensibilities, and I think for me, in terms of either whether it's singing or reading it, that flow really, really helps. And I think as a listener, I like the flow that engages. Even if you listen to, um, right back to, I suppose the best of the rhymers ever being Shakespeare, or certainly in creating things in flow, is that's what really works for me. Is I like that the delivery, that I can actually concentrate on what I'm hearing in terms of the content without trying to work out where I think it's going to land, if that makes sense.
I mean, you'd had quite a long gap before you started working with the Pop-Up Poetry Club. Has your style changed from the past?
Not really, no. It's sort of, I think when you reach my age, these things they become a bit instilled, don't they? It's sort of, I know I used to enjoy writing when I was young. I got an English prize when I was at technical college back in 65, 66, which I was terribly proud of, because I haven't got an awful lot of prizes in my life. So that was a nice one to have. But I think, I've always enjoyed reading, and I think a lot. So maybe that's it. I think a lot.
Well, there's certainly very thoughtful poems. One of the things we'll be doing over the next few weeks and going forward is telling you more about other disabled artists, and in particular, the one place you can find disability arts online is a publication called just that, Disability Arts Online. So I'm just going to pop on a very short video from them to tell you a little bit more about it.
This month on Dow, Sonia Allery presents a song looking out on her garden during lockdown. James Lake talks about the making of two sculptures effects of lockdown and time. Insect Hands, a digital dance piece by Secondhand Dance, takes you closer to nature. Disability Arts Online and Attenborough Arts Centre are supporting 5 artists with new commissions. Disability Arts Online announces a fundraiser for our COVID commissions. Check out today. Peace out.
So that was just a taste of what happened on Disability Arts Online in February. As with us, all of those publications remain online. We're going to put a direct link in from our highlights and links page, but just just search for Disability Arts online and you should be able to find it there. Most of the content is written, but there is some video content, and there's, as always, lots and lots of pictures. I was looking at those pictures of James Lake's cardboard sculpture, and I remember when I was artist in residence at the National Disability Arts Collection and Archive at Holton Lee in Dorset, and they had a wonderful sculpture that he'd done of a man in an armchair, wasn't it? I have no idea how he manages to sculpt in cardboard, but it's incredibly effective. Have you seen any of his work in real life?
Unfortunately not. I mean, I'm just wowing with Josh at the guy, the male character. Just the detail in the face was just like, okay, that is pretty cool.
Well, absolutely. And when you think of the sort of, well, they're not really young British artists now because they're really boomers like the rest of us. But when you think about people making these little sculptures and sending them off, you know, like Mark Quinn sends his tiny little model off to Italy to be sculpted. And yet you've got James doing these incredibly lifelike things with what must be a very difficult medium to work with. Anyway, if you saw anything you liked in that, and I would be surprised if you didn't, then check out Disability Arts Online. And now we're going to go virtually over to Norfolk, where two members of our associate drama company, Act Up Newham, are shielding. They were shielding with assistance dog Merlot in Newham itself, but more recently, in order to give Merlot and indeed themselves space to go out, they have been sheltering in a barn in Norfolk, and Merlot has been sharing his walks with us. This film, in fact, wasn't shot by Merlot, although Merlot is there. This is from a walk that Hannah, Stella and Merlot took to see the new lambs, and Stella felt that we would prefer to see the lambs from her viewpoint than Merlot's, which I suspect is probably true. So this is Norfolk earlier this week with lambs. And Julie is going to do some audio description as usual.
Thank you. It's especially fitting after being shorn the sheep, but it's a lovely view. Straight ahead of us is a tree which has got ivy or mistletoe growing up it. It's got very naked branches, which are quite classically sort of beautifully sort of all over the place. There's a field on the other side of it with a wire electric fence. And in the field, grazing quietly, is a little group of lambs, I think, and possibly sheep off to the left. And everybody's got, oh, it's the lambs, and with sheep in the field as well, everybody's got very excited, and they're leaping up and gambolling. Oh my goodness, they're having such a lovely time. The sun's come out, although it's a bit of a grey day. And if you listen closely, you can hear them calling. They're calling their mothers and each other. They're having an absolutely lovely time. Some of the bigger sheep, the mother sheep, are coming along with them, just keeping an eye on them. But there's a lot of gambling, dancing, and wonderful, wonderful sort of joy of life. Lambs full of happiness and that was a quick shot of Merlot watching them, being a very good boy, doing a good down. The sheep are dancing at the moment, and there's a couple of black sheep that have joined them. So it looks as if they're in a field of some sort of vegetable as well, because everybody's having a good old munch. at the greenery on the ground. There's a mother sheep just standing, staring at us, and just been joined by her baby lamb. Some of the sheep have got little black ears and little black faces. Some have got white face. It is certainly a beautiful pastoral scene, and it's a lovely thing to be able to share.
And thank you so much for sharing that with us, Hannah and Stella. I'm not going to say I'm envious because I don't think it's any fun shielding in a barn 24/7 miles from your home. But yeah, I'm very envious of being able to see those lambs in person. That was absolutely lovely. I couldn't really tell. I mean, lambing season started about a month ago, but they do grow very quickly these days, don't they?
They do, although they were still very young. They were a good few weeks old. But you see, down where they are, although they had the snow quite recently, it's actually quite sheltered in the farmland.
Possibly. I mean, I remember when I moved to Norwich from Essex, thinking it was the coldest place I'd ever been into. And they're very proud of the fact that the wind comes over from Siberia, but I think it probably depends on exactly where you are. I can see that Robin has his teddy bear ready, so I know that it's time to move on to our sports section. I'm just going to get Tony the Ted for Julie. And just to explain to anybody who hasn't seen the Clockwork Paralympics before, we started this off last April in an attempt really to provide some sport for everybody who was missing it, and particularly our para-athlete friends in the West Midlands. So what we do is we race clockwork toys for the right of one of our teddies to wear a medal for the next week. We have lots of teddies here and one gold plastic medal. They have lots of real medals, but not so many teddies. So although our teddies are also taking part in the International Bear Hunt for Children, yeah, sometimes they're not quite as Teddy-ish as they might be. Like I say, Tony the Ted, he is representing London 2012. Yes, I know what he looks like, Julie. Show him to the audience. He's got pale honey-coloured skin. Or fur, I should say. He's got a little blue jumper that says Skipper on it. He's got a little white captain's hat over one ear, and he's got a red and white spotted bow tie. I think he's a bit of a sort of leisure skipper with that bow tie. If he was serious, he'd actually have a life jacket and lose the tie, but never mind. Who is representing Birmingham 2022?
We're not sure about the name. Sorry, moved away from the mic there to look at the teddy as bad as Julie. And I know what the teddy looks like. We're arguing is either Tinsy Ted or Jeff. So we'll go